Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we've got some player props here for you guys on a Friday, 8-game slate. Also got a couple game videos up for you tonight. Some overs, I think, that we're looking at in a few games, especially that 76ers Spurs one. Staying pretty hot on these player props this week, thanks to a really huge night one night, but hovering well above for that 500 right now. So definitely want to make sure to like and subscribe so you can continue to follow along. Head to thelines.com as well. You can check out what we're talking about there and more about the NBA and everything else up on thelines.com, and use that odds finder tool that we have up there. Make sure you're getting the best juice back on all these bets and player props you're making in the NBA this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first prop, a guy we had already hinted we were talking about here, Mr. James Harden.
Yeah, in that Sixers-Spurs game, we are more interested even in the player props and the player performance doubles than the game result. I see Embiid double-double in a win up on FanDuel. I don't yet see that for Harden, but I think that that's a fantastic bet. I think he's pretty much a lock for a double-double. He's minus 280 for that. As always, we want the points and assists with him, 32.5. Actually, maybe you want the assists more, just 10.5 assists, where he's averaging 11.5 his last 7 roadies, double-digit dimes against every opponent in that span except the Clippers, who also held him to 6 points. I mean, we know what they can do defensively. He's averaging 23 points against the other 6 teams he's faced in that span. But the Spurs, defensively, not so much. Dead last in defensive rating, last 10, allowing the second most paint points. Only Detroit allows more, and I bring that up because Harden's last triple-double came against Detroit, and his triple-double tonight, regardless of the win, plus 550. If you can get the player performance double on that, surely would be some great juice. And there are numbers to back up that he could fill up all 3 here. 24.5 points, 9.5 rebounds, 12 assists in his last 5 against the Spurs. 4 of those were with Brooklyn, where sometimes he didn't have as much of a usage rate. Certainly he's handling the ball more with the Sixers. He might not be shooting as much because he's feeding Embiid, but this is the all-star snub night narrative, the best one to target, I think, after, he's been on a tear for the last 2 months, and he does not get the all-star selection. He's going to be out to fill the stat sheet, and I think, actually a decent chance at putting up a triple-double if he gets that opportunity.
I love all of it. Can I interest you in plus 360 for James Harden to record 14 assists by chance tonight? 12 is plus 145, which I really like. It feels safe to hit plus 145 for him to get 12. 2 more, you double those odds, better than double the juice you're getting there at plus 360. They want you to take that stuff.
I'd rather just have 12 in a win.
12 in a win works too. Obviously not quite the same juice when there's a 10.5 point spread, but either way, I'm going to be using some Harden, some Embiid, some 76ers stuff tonight as well. Probably throw those in a few parlays and bet them themselves as well. I love all that stuff for the 76ers tonight. So a game that, look, Toronto should beat the Rockets, but the Rockets just had a really, really good showing without their 2 best players, Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. Clearly their most talented, but those 2 guys are out tonight again, and that actually was an addition by subtraction for the Rockets as they played much tougher. They didn't turn the ball over 100 times in that game. So, either way, I do think there's some opportunity for them to hang a bit with the Raptors tonight. Maybe we see a bit more regression back to the mean without scoring the way that they put up 109 to beat the Thunder the other night with some pretty good defense. It'll probably take that tonight to handle the Raptors. That's why we're going under here, Nate, with Siakam. 25.5 points. You go under that, it's even money on DK. Really like that. It's also pretty high at the points, rebounds, and assist combo is 38.5. If you go under there, you can get that minus 118 on Caesars. Go ahead and make sure you're using that odds finder tool. That's how we found all that stuff. Siakam in his last 4, just 21 a game, 40% from the field, 25 from deep. So not very good splits for him. Only less than 6 rebounds and 3 assists in that time frame as well. I think that the PRA is a really, really good bet there, Nate. And then in the 8 games that he's played without OG, interestingly, 21 a game, 5.5 boards and 5 assists. Yet when he's with OG, you can tick all those up very significantly, about 26 a game with OG, 8.5 boards and 6.5 assists. Look, he doesn't have to guard the other players, best, perimeter / versatile player. When OG's out there, he just has to do a lot less, and I think it frees him up a ton. And then Houston's got, like we were talking about, those really tough power forwards all over the place with Jabari and with Dejounte, allowing the fourth most points per game to power forwards, fewest points per game to power forwards on the season is Houston. Fourth fewest rebounds per game. I also didn't mention Alperen Sengun. I'm sorry, I just want to give Sengun his shout out as well as a reason they're so good against power forwards. Fourth fewest rebounds per game to power forwards over their last couple weeks, and then just 18 per game to all of the teams opposing power forwards in the last week of the season or so. So those guys, Dejounte got healthy in the last couple weeks. Jabari Smith getting a bit more time, and like we said, Sengun when he's playing out there has been a complete rock for them. So yeah, I think Siakam, this is a tough game for him, and we normally like to pick over on Pascal, but we got to take an under on him tonight. Definitely the PRA and the points is really great juice.
Yeah, it's not really looking good for him. The usage rate has been high, but the efficiency has been utterly terrible in these last four without OG. And I guess, maybe that's just because Precious Achiuwa and Scotty Barnes are playing, and now your spacing is terrible. So yeah, he's not able to kind of knife into the lane the same way he was when he had some shooting around him.
Yeah.
And Houston, totally underrated in terms of their front court defense. And those guys, throw Kenyon Martin Jr. in there, are going to play more without Jalen, and the identity is just going to be different without those two gunning guards, as we saw against OKC, held SGA in check. And so now you get a struggling Siakam. Yeah, I think you bundle the PRA together because he's also not rebounding because Precious is out there gobbling up the boards more.
And Boucher even got like 20 minutes, 25 minutes last game. So yeah, it's crowded down there.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a slobber knocker, as you say. Washington hosting Portland, and Bradley Beal still very low props. He's just kind of punching the clock, I guess. Maybe he was on a bit of a minutes limit in his last four, working his way back from injury, to be fair, but only hovering around 30 minutes per game. His last two, he started to show a little more signs in terms of playing 31 and a half, scoring about 19 points, 5.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. But I think tonight at 21 and a half points, it's safe on the over because of what you might call the Dame factor. When you play Portland, Damian Lillard's prop is 35 and a half, and he's been on fire. And when he starts lighting up your backcourt and, him and Simons can't defend anybody on the other end, you get into these nice, superstar shootouts. And when Beal was playing like more of a superstar in like 2021, he averaged 34 points on 37% usage in those matchups with Dame. Also hit 4 threes at 41%. And because of his production being lower, 1.5 threes at even money at FanDuel. I think he hits 2 threes here tonight. And just that Dame factor, you look at recent lines from opposing guards. Ja had 32. Dejounte had 48 and 7 with Trey out. Go back to that Lakers game. Freaking Dennis Schroeder had 24 and 8 against this Portland backcourt. So it's just like, it's very vulnerable if Beal does want to kind of like, show what he's got at this point and show that he's back from this nagging injury.
I don't know if I trust Brad Beal. I should have done a better mo and like paused for super long and been, because I don't know if I trust Brad Beal in this. I looked at this, but I do think this line is fair. And Kyle Kuzma is somebody who, I don't know, he doesn't care who's playing with him right now. He's trying to punch his ticket to California. I think he would just play anywhere on the West Coast if he could. At 23 and a half, I like him as well. I like some points in this one. I think Dame is just going to continue to Dame, man. He's going to continue to Dame people. He's making those insane shots right now. And like you said, it's the opportunity is ripe for people to be scoring on them as well, the way they have, including Dejounte Murray, who segue to our last pick here, going over 27 and a half points and assists for him. You can also get the points at 21 and a half. It's actually better odds to tack on the assist there to 27 and a half on DraftKings. His last 10 DJM, as we call him, 25, about 26 a game, really. 6 boards, 6 assists. He's been playing about 37 minutes a game with a 26% usage. So I think they're just kind of like at this point, they know they need at least one of, if not both, he and Trey on the floor at the same time. His splits have been awesome. 55% from the field and that 45% from deep I really like as well, obviously. 26 and a half points per game on roadies during that time frame of over the last 10 or so. So I think you can expect him to have some pretty good success on the road, where in January they played on the road 11 times of the Hawks, 23 points a game for Dejounte on 50-40, basically 90 splits there, and 120 essentially offensive rating individually. So they're playing the Yaz. Should be very clear. I loved points in this. We talked a little bit about it last night. Didn't really want to touch this one necessarily, but I do love points even at 242. I was ready to hit it at 240 where it opened, and probably still feel comfortable about it getting above 242, to be honest. And you know, the last time that he played Utah with Atlanta earlier in November, just that one time, obviously, but 26 points, 6 boards, 5 assists, and that was just with a 25% usage rate, Nate. And then his last versus Utah with the Spurs, obviously that usage was up to about 36 as he was their offense, but 27 points, 9 boards, and 4 assists there as well. So all those kind of assists get you over, and Utah's allowing the 3rd most points per game to point guards, 6th most points per game to shooting guards. It used to be a team that we could eye and say, all right, Kelly Olynyk and Lauri Markkanen are starting at center and power forward respectively. Go ahead and take the opposing front court. Now it's Walker Kessler out there, blocker Kessler. I just made that up. Maybe that's something we should call him, because that man is dominating down low right now in the 27 minutes a game that he's been getting since he started. So I think you can feel better about a guard having success against this Jazz team rather than any of their big guys.
Blocker Kessler, not bad.
Thank you.
But yeah, the point is Dejounte, 26 points in November against this team when he was really just struggling to find his footing with the Hawks. And now, I mean, I thought about taking Hawks here. I don't know how much to read into that evisceration of the Suns in their last road game, but clearly, I mean, after Trey missed one game, both of them are on the same page. You know, they have their chemistry down. They're both putting up huge numbers. And Dejounte, we saw what he did with the Spurs last year. He could be a triple-double threat every night if he was just the man out there, but he's trying to find his footing alongside Trey. This is a matchup with a 242 total where they can both put up their numbers.
Yeah, for sure. And if he continues to get staggered and gets to play against that second unit as well for the Yaz, I think he feels pretty good about that as well, with, you know, no D Beasley playing out there in the backcourt and Jay Clarkson starting a lot more, but also getting some time out there. So just no defense on that perimeter for the Jazz at this point, and you feel good about the guards there for the Hawks. So that is all the time we have for you in this one. Looking to stay strong and close out this week on these player props with you guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. We are coming back each and every weekday this season with game videos and player props. So until we see you next, happy betting.